Welcome back to Checkpoint. We thank you for staying with us. So, of course, remember that the hashtag is Checkpoint on Twitter. That's at KTN News, at Yvonne Okwara. The SMS line is 22155. My guests tonight, no strangers to Checkpoint. It's been a while. They're back, and we're happy to have them, including a new face to Checkpoint, but not to KTN News. So I'll start with you, Edwin Sifuna, who's an advocate to the High Court. And I think for the first time, we're having you now as an aspirant, a parliamentary aspirant.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Professor Michael Wainaina, who's our resident political analyst. You know him a lot, quite a bit on Morning Express. And then we have Ngunjiri Wambugu, who's also a parliamentary aspirant. We shall have no analysts left by the time this election is done.
No, we'll continue analyzing.
Just from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us today. So I think, Ngunjiri, the best place would be to start with you. When you discuss the state of the nation, there's quite a bit happening. Doctors are on strike, lecturers on strike. There's a drought, inflation, high cost of living. How would you describe that? Because many say this is a critical time for the Jubilee administration with all these few months to the election.
Thank you, Yvonne. Yes, it is a critical time for the Jubilee administration. Part of the problem with a lot of these strikes is because it is a critical time. It's an election period. If you're in unions, this is a time to negotiate. This is a time to actually push the government to listen to you, to close a CBA. For example, one of the unions that's on strike, the CBA is not up for renewal until after elections. But you want to have that conversation now because at this moment you have leverage. You can tell the government that if you don't give us this, we will not support you. And then the opposition, you can promise them that we will support you if you agree that this is the kind of CBA that we implement. So a lot of the strikes that are going on right now, except the doctors one, have everything to do with which moment we are in, and that we are a few months to the election. Drought is affecting, 7 countries right now? I mean, it's got Kenya, it's got Uganda, it's got Tanzania. But one of the good things about what is happening, you can't say drought is a good thing, but one of the good things about what's happening in the government response is that it's actually a lot more coordinated, as unlike in the past. We've got cash payments going out. I think like 2,500 people in Turkana have already gotten the cash payments, and they're targeted to 12,000 households that are suffering from drought. So there's been a better coordinated response, but there's nothing we really could not do much about the drought.
Okay, that's interesting. Edwin?
Well, it is quite interesting that anyone would see positives in what is going on in this country. And take, for instance, what he says about the strikes that we're seeing. These are issues that have been fermenting over time, and you would have hoped that an administration that is serious about tackling these issues would have sorted them out by now. They wouldn't be boiling over right now. For instance, the doctor strike that he's talking about, this issue about the CBA is an argument that started way back in 2013 after these people were elected to office. In fact, so they have had more than enough time. Sifuna, if you have not sorted out issues in 4 years, you're not going to sort them out in 6 years, and you cannot see anything rosy about it. Number 2, on the issue of drought, it is such a big shame. If you look at the promises that they made, and even the allocations to the budget that they did last time, this financial year that is coming to an end, you see maybe, 16 billion shillings, 13 billion shillings going into irrigation that we don't see. We don't hear them talking about the Kulalu irrigation scheme anymore. We have institutions that do research in agriculture, like the new Kenya Agriculture Livestock Research Authority or whatever. They are not receiving money. They have not been paid from December. I mean, we are receiving aid from an arid country, a country that is essentially a desert. And this is something that you can come and say that we are not doing as badly as we are. I mean, we need to be serious and acknowledge that we are in a problem, and the problem is the incompetence of the current government.
All right, I'll come to Professor Wainaina in just a moment. But before we move away from you, what would a NASA government have done differently?
Well, here's what people don't understand, is that who you are is not something you reveal in, the 6 months to the election. Who you are is something that you live. Your ideological consistency is what gets you elected, and people can see a difference in you due to the ideological consistency. For instance, it is very basic. Why is there no irrigation going on in Kulalu? Because of the corruption. We spend over 1 billion shillings just paying what they called experts to do a report on how we can do irrigation at that particular scheme. Tackle corruption. Tackle the issues that affect production of food in this country.
You don't feel it prudent for Kenyans to hear the how you would be able to?
This is what we're saying.
They have no how.
It is very, very basic things that will get us out of the quagmire that we're in. tackle the issue of corruption. If you deal with corruption alone, we would be producing the food that we said we were going to produce in Kulalu. I mean, these are things that we have said over and over again, and you know that these are the solutions to the problems. We have offered solutions every day as they emerged. And you, especially the people in the media, have walked this journey with the opposition, and every time that an issue has arisen, we have offered an alternative. And for you to come and ask, what is this that you're going to do? By now, you should be able to see the ideological consistency in approach to public affairs management would have prevented the situation in which we are in right
seriously. You can't allow him to get away with that. Let me say why.
We need Prof to say something.
Yeah, I know. As we go to Prof, let me say why you can't allow him to get away with that. The guy says that they've always given solutions. What they have always done is pointed out at the problems. For example, saying that we need to sort out corruption, that is not a solution. That is pointed out as a problem.
Okay.
You need to say
how.
It's the reason why there is no irrigation at Kulalu,
gentlemen, we could get to the how, and some would fault Jubilee, for example, to do with the drought.
They may not be perfect, but at least we have hows.
Okay, all right. Prof, when you look at this and they're talking about ideological consistencies, do you see ideological differences between the two sides where one offers something significantly different from the other?
Yvonne, my dad is not a very educated man. He didn't go far in school, but he's a very brilliant man. Probably one of the most brilliant people I know. And my dad says, nyauya kuraya bagia korea juishi ya mwene. Paka akizeeka anaanza kukura vifaranga za mwenyewe. When a cat grows old, it starts to eat the chicks of the owners. 54 years, we have a political class on both sides, ambayo ni paka mzee. And that is why the antagonisms you can hear are predictable. He is going to come and defend people who cannot be defended. He is going to come and say that they have better options, and you ask him what the better options are, and he will tell you that it is a secret, because they don't have them. The challenge in this country, Yvonne, is that the two gentlemen here are defending what they know is indefensible. It is not two sides that have two different ideological positions. It is a single predatory political class ambayo inakula vifaranga sahi. Because it is so old, the only thing it can do is to kukula vifaranga. And the positions that the two of them hold, Yvonne, I can tell you, is not the position that is held by many Kenyans. Many Kenyans know that none of them have solutions.
Okay, so here's an interesting thing, yes. and then we'll come to the two of them because I can see they have a reaction. So there's this drive that's happening on social media,
yes,
with some people saying, let's replace everybody.
Yes.
And because there's this common saying that all politicians are thieves, then let's
yes,
get new thieves.
Yes.
Are there new thieves out there? Should we be looking? What do you think about this?
Our problem, Yvonne, is not the thieves. Our problem is a political narrative that gets the thieves elected. This political narrative is ethnicity, and it has two sons. One is called impunity, the other one is called mediocrity. When you touch impunity, it reminds you who the father is. If you touch mediocrity, it reminds you who the father is. Unfortunately, we are not going to be able to get rid of the thieves if we don't get rid of the ethnic narrative that gets the thieves elected.
Okay, that's an interesting point. Ethnic narratives, and let's bring this to the mass voter registration drive. Both principles from both sides retreated to their strongholds. And quite frankly, political strongholds is almost synonymous with ethnic backgrounds.
Yes.
President Uhuru Kenyatta did the same thing.
Yes.
Former Prime Minister Raila did the same thing. So do you agree with what he's saying? There is nothing different between these two big political outfits we've got?
First, that's one point I'm sure Edwin and I will agree that we disagree with him.
Oh, that's great. We get you to agree
sure.
against something.
And the reason we disagree with him is because there's one of the saddest things about politics, and I'm talking from both having started as an analyst and now being a practicing politician, is that the reality of what politics is, and it doesn't change. It doesn't change whether you're in Kenya, whether you're in the States, whether you're in Europe, it doesn't change. So
and
when
what
I
is
listen
that reality?
That you work, politics is about managing the interests of a constituency. And unfortunately, Kenya is still a developing country. We still organize ourselves ethnically. We might want to say we do not want to do politics ethnically, but we do nearly everything else ethnically. We're organizing ourselves, whether he gave an example in Kikuyu. You know, so we have a background we cannot walk away from. And this background, rather than start saying it is a bad thing, because when you say that the president went to his ethnic background, when you say that Raila went to his ethnic background to start from, it's because we have actually organized our interests ethnically.
Here's where...
Let me finish, so that you understand, so that you understand what I'm trying to, the point I'm trying to make. So we have a situation where, as a country, we have different communities that are looking at the presidency. I listened to NASA, and they're saying we have to remove 2 communities and replace them with us. I listened to Jubilee arguing and saying those guys are coming to remove us.
Okay.
So this is a politics.
All right,
this is 5 months to an election.
This is the challenge to the two of you, gentlemen.
Yeah, can I just say
you're
something
young,
on the voter
you're
registration?
new, you're fresh, and we would hope that we would hear a different narrative from the two of you.
Let me say this. First of all, I am one of those people who has always believed that if your approach to politics is to look at the voter register and say, okay, there is more Bukusus than any other people on the register, and therefore I have already won the election, that is not politics. That is tribalism, and it has to be called by the name that it is. You know, because even when you register majority of your people, they are faced with the same problems that these other people are facing. And there's two things that have happened in this voter registration. Number one, you will agree with me that the traditional areas of law registration are known in this country, and that it would be ideal that people actually focus the registration effort in some of these areas. These are things that are acknowledged by even the IEBC itself. Number two, only one of those people that you spoke about has come out after the registration and said there is not going to be anybody's enclave anywhere. That the problems that face the people in central Kenya, for instance, are the same problems that face the people in Nyanza, for instance. So what we are saying is this: if you look at it and say, oh, the majority of the people who have registered are Kikuyus and the election is over, those Kikuyus as well demand that you deliver to them. They want an explanation on the high cost of living that you've alluded to.
But yet, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga started out in his stronghold.
Absolutely.
So are young people like the two of you actually informing the party leadership to be a little different?
This is what you're saying. We are saying, for instance, where I come from, it has been a big problem of registration in Bungoma, for instance, because if you look at the population of the county and the numbers of the people who are on the register and compare it, for instance, with Kiambu, it is not the same. So where do you concentrate the effort? You concentrate the effort where there is a greater need. And I don't find anything wrong if, in fact, I would have been happy to see the President of the Republic of Kenya acknowledging that there are certain areas in this country, for whatever reason, voter registration is not comparable to other areas, and we concentrate all the effort there. So I don't find any fault in anyone concentrating in certain areas that have had historically, low voter registration.
That is the most pragmatic political statement I've ever heard.
What
Edwin is explaining, the same guy who is saying that there's no enclave was a guy who said that when we began the voter registration, that we will know who is going to win this election at the end of this voter registration.
Okay, but to be fair, the tyranny of numbers is also, a narrative that we've heard for the last couple of years.
But it exists. Democracy is about numbers.
Yvonne, you can see that the tangent that you're on is very different from the tangent of the people who represent Pakamuze. And the kind of narratives that they are pushing, Ngujiri is an apologist of the tribal narrative. He's saying it's what we have and we have to work with it. You have heard him saying that there is nothing wrong with people going to their strongholds to push their strongholds. You have asked a very good question, which these gentlemen have not responded to. Aren't they supposed to be the new generation that is imagining a new narrative different from the narrative ya Pakamuze?
That's exactly what I was talking about.
Now, the positions the two gentlemen hold, Yvonne, has nothing to do with what Kenya wants. It has everything to do with the fact that party nominations are coming and they hope to catch the ear and the eye of the tribal kingpins so that they can get some mercy when nominations come. I will tell you what the narratives are for the average Kenyans. I'm a blogger and I interact with my readers. I have over 41,000 comments on my blog, and I will tell you where the narratives of the Kenyan are. Forget about these ones who want to defend the side that their lead is battered. There are two arguments by Kenyans. Argument number one, that the political class is predatory, the political class is tribal, the political class is corrupt. And then they say, we have to select the lesser evil, the devil I know. That is the first group. The devil I know group understand, they are not apologists for the system like this gentleman. They understand that we have been presented with two bad options. And they say, I will choose the lesser evil, and the lesser evil is often the evil that speaks my language.
Okay.
That's the first group. There's a second group. The second group is the one that says, we have a problem with a degenerate political class, which is predatory on both sides. They do not recognize the nice things that are being said on both sides. Their challenge is, and they ask me, what is the option? Because this is all we have. And that is what, Yvonne, you're asking these gentlemen who are supposed to be helping Kenyans to think about the options, to imagine about how the current political scenario can be changed. And here they are defending.
First of all, I would invite bloggers. You know, these people who call themselves bloggers. I want to invite you, my brother.
What's wrong with bloggers?
No, this is what we are saying. You know, you sit somewhere in an office here in Nairobi and you blog away and you think you know the problems of this country. You go there down to the ground and speak to the people. I sit here today, we have schools in Kandui constituency where I come from, for instance, who have been given closure notices because they don't have toilets. And we are bringing laptops to those schools. It's ridiculous. Go and speak to the people. People want change. And we're saying that within the system in which we're in, we need to be able to find solutions
so
to the
here's the
problems.
option. Here's the opportunity.
41,000 people. I
here's
have
the
over
opportunity,
200,000 registered
to
voters.
make the case for that change.
This is what we're saying.
Because I asked you in the beginning and you said you wouldn't want to reveal the strategy.
That every person who has this approach, that the register reflects the election, is going at it the wrong way.
Okay.
That you need to be able to still convince those people that you're going to do
All
work.
right, tell us how this would be different. I mean, I think Kenyans deserve, honestly, to hear the how. There's the NASA 7-point plan.
Yes.
Perhaps some further details into just how that would be
for
done
instance,
to achieve things.
let's look at the 7-point plan that you have alluded to. We have said, for instance, one of the biggest problems in this country is a problem of corruption, and the greatest problem with corruption is procurement by government. So when somebody proposes, for instance, and this is something that people have been unable to do, that when we get into government ourselves, if you are an elected official, an MP or NASA or a cabinet secretary or whatever it is position you hold in government, you're not going to do business with government. This is one of the sources of corruption in this country. Number two, I have personally even wondered, how is it not possible, for instance, for us as a country to have a black box institution that does all the procurement? That we as a ministry somewhere, if we wanted 10 desks...
Okay, allow me to ask you this, because you're aspiring to be a member of the National Assembly.
Yes.
Should members of National Assembly also do business with government?
No,
because
absolutely
certain
not.
members of the ODM party itself have been accused of doing business.
And this is a problem
not accused,
that I will
rather,
acknowledge.
or alleged of having done business, not just with government, but with NYS as well.
So the NYS is a government department. So where do you think this proposal that we should not, all of us should not do business with government came from?
Shouldn't you lead by example,
from this particular example.
Okay.
All right.
Leading by example. I'd like to talk about, the issue of drought right now, because you mentioned 7 countries are facing drought. There's really nothing anyone can do. Year on year, from 2015 to 2016, we have witnessed the hottest temperatures on record on the planet. Yeah. And many people say the drought isn't an issue of lack of rain, it's rather an issue of management and planning.
There's a difference. There's drought, which is actually it's a natural phenomenon. And then there's the effect of drought.
Yeah, well...
So what we need to be talking about is...
The allegation is the management of the effects of drought that has been insufficient.
We have had cases in this country where Kenyans contributed money because guys were dying of hunger. We now have a situation when drought happens, the government has already, for example, they'd already put in place...
But Kenyans are contributing, Gunjiri. Kenya Red Cross has a campaign out asking Kenyans to contribute. I agree with you,
but we have a situation where the government already had set aside a structure. How are guys being sent money? Because there was a structure in place. You don't wake up, we didn't wait for the drought to happen to start giving...
But you waited quite a while to declare it a national disaster.
There was a structure in place.
Okay.
There was a structure in place. That's why it's been implemented.
All right.
And there's something else I wanted to point out about the difference, and I'm not going to attack him as a blogger. But I'm going to re-emphasize the point that Edwin has made. There's a difference between sitting and having an intellectual conversation on the internet and going to the ground and talking to people. And I'll tell you why. So Sifuna says guys won't change. I come from a place where people are saying, look, this government is not perfect. But there's absolutely no way we are changing this government with those guys. Because those guys, all they do is speak, make noise and complain. This government is doing stuff. For example, and there's also a fundamental difference between Jubilee and NASA. NASA is always talking, okay, first, beyond the complaining, they're always talking about how they're going to fix this process, fix this process. Jubilee has been trying to get the lives of people uplifted.
Okay,
Allow
me to put this one in.
Yes.
Getting the lives of people uplifted.
Yep.
90 days and counting, the doctors have been on strike.
Yes.
We've seen back and forth between the government and the union employees. We're now hearing that members of this government were signing documents that they shouldn't have signed. Who
Not of
was
this
supposed
government.
to-
No.
Okay.
Again, propaganda. Because remember, this CBA was signed before this government got in place.
But
it was signed all along. The government has insisted, first and foremost, we devolved the health function to the county assemblies. The people who have been dealing with this thing is county government. The chairman of the health committee under the counties is Ranguma, the governor of Kisumu.
Yet we have a
That's
cabinet
the guy.
secretary in charge of health at the national
The
level.
cabinet secretary's work is to, because the government is the government. We don't have 47 governments.
You see,
Okay.
So money goes to one place
so
and then
according
it's
to you,
devolved to
Ngunjiri,
different places.
this is an issue squarely of the county governments?
The issue of doctors, because the government has been trying to do everything it can to solve the problem, but the problem is between doctors and their employers. The employers are the county assemblies,
Okay.
the county governments. And now, the point I needed to make about the health sector, we have had a situation. So here we are. Doctors have been on strike for close to 90 days now. They have been approached by literally every single person to try and solve the problem. What is the problem? They want a CBA implemented that is actually not implementable.
Listen,
Prof,
on the doctor's strike, I will tell you this for free. The only reason why this government is unable to convince doctors to go back to work is because this government cannot tell anyone that they do not have resources or money. We see where the money is. Every time you say there is no money, we tell you, but your associates are carrying money in sacks. 5 billion shillings lost in the Ministry of Health. These doctors know that there is money.
Now you see the kind of things we're talking about. That 5 billion, I actually went to the
That
media
is the reason why you cannot tell the doctors that there is no money. Ngunjiri, there is money, but you're stealing all the money.
Propaganda. One of the things that NASA has been brilliant at doing is cooking figures and throwing them at the wall and hoping the Jubilee government is going to explain them away. And they've done a brilliant job.
Okay, I don't want us to get into that one because I saw you on that one, and that will take us a whole other hour to discuss.
Yes.
What are you hearing in terms of where we are headed? Is this the youthful, different leadership that might perhaps start to influence NASA, influence Jubilee, towards having a different tangent, a different type of conversation in our politics?
The tragedy of this country today is that the young people who are supposed to be giving us that new trajectory are the Sifunas and the Wambugos.
And yourselves.
you can hear
you're not old.
And the
It's you.
Wainainas.
Absolutely.
And you can hear them very eloquently defending a political class that is indefensible. It cannot be defended. Yvonne, Kenyans are angry. Kenyans are frustrated. Kenyans are disillusioned. Kenyans, you are politicians who are hoping to get in and become part of the same kukumze that is eating the country.
Let him give us solutions from the Bloggers Association.
Let me give you solutions. Let me tell you. The solution is you people to imagine new ways. You cannot come here and start talking about NYS. Sifuna,
outsourcing to others.
Listen.
Give the solutions.
Listen, Sifuna. You cannot come here and start pointing at Jubilee and telling them about NYS. Yvonne, the youth of this country are the most exploited and the most stolen from demographic by the political class. I will remind you that in the blood-soaked coalition government that these guys formed, there was money called Kazi kwa Vijana. That money was stolen by that government. And therefore, the last people who should come here and pontificate about how clean they are and how good they are in managing public resources are fellows who stole kazi kwa vijana money. And I told you, the only thing that you're going to hear from these two is you did, the other one did. What I would want to hear from us, a new generation, Yvonne, is the question I asked that a big section of Kenyans are asking. What next? Where do we turn to? What is our solution? We have a political class that is predatory. It is made up of thieves. It is made up of tribalists. It is made up of extortionists. Kenyans want to know what next. Where do we go from here?
All right, that's a good place for you to jump
my problem with Prof here is, first and foremost, he's speaking like he's an old man. He's a young guy. I'm possibly older than him. Second thing, the second problem I have, and not just with him, but with a lot of the talking heads that we have on television and on radio on issues of where Kenya needs to go, is that thing of speaking to Kenyans. It's like you're not one of us. You know, you have these brilliant ideas. Why aren't you getting into that predatory political establishment? No, listen, let me finish. I wish, because Sifuna and I, despite the fact that we come from different sides, have stepped up for our generation and said, listen, and said, that predatory political class that we keep pointing at, we're going to get in there and fix it.
So
why are you outside?
Let's answer this question.
I'm not outside.
Yes. What next? What's different? What's new?
This is what
fresh blood are you going to put into ODM and yourself into the Jubilee Party?
This is what people need to understand. That when you see somebody like myself offering myself for a position of leadership, you need to understand that you are going to be able to change things when you are inside the particular system that you want to change. You are not going to sit and blog away all your life.
However, Edwin, allow me to ask
yourself,
this,
and it is not easy.
And this is what we hear from the political class. When we say we want change, we want new leadership, and then everybody says, well, why don't you go in? Surely, not everybody can go into political leadership and vie for a seat.
And some
will choose to put themselves up like you have, and others will sit here and say, this is what we want.
This is exactly what we're saying, Yvonne. And you have to understand that solutions to the problems come over time. And people need to be given time to explain themselves how they're going to help the country move forward. Number one, you have to be the solution. You can't sit here as a young person and say, Sifuna, you do it. Yep. You have to get in and do these things. For instance,
getting in does not necessarily mean being
let me give you an example.
Let me give you
an example, Yvonne, of how changing hearts and minds begins. For instance, we were on a show last week with a few other young people. And one of the things that we agreed there and then is that it is immoral for us to be in parliament, for instance, in the next parliament, and make all that money that people make there. And yet the situation with the ordinary Kenyan is as it is right now. So we say, for us who are getting into this parliament now, we are going to commit to take a pay cut, for instance. That is a change. I mean, we are starting from there.
Make that commitment here. What
sort of pay cut would you want to take? We did make that commitment. I have made it so many times. You want me to make it again? Do you want it in writing? I can send it to you on email. I am saying, as a young person, I do not accept the iniquity in this country, and that I cannot be the person who is earning all those perks and salaries at the expense of the taxpayer. Yet the people have no access to basic things like health and education. You see, this is what we're saying. And I want you to be able to hold me to these things, because on your show, I have made promises here that I have always kept. And I want to repeat one today. And I'm sure the young people who are vying for positions, in fact, the group that I'm talking about, many of them were from Jubilee, some of them are from other political parties. But we accept that the situation that is obtaining at this particular moment in this country is not acceptable. And we want to do something about it.
All right, so yours is different, taking a pay cut and sort of having the Mwananchi in mind.
Absolutely.
Gunjiri, what's yours?
My work, what I actually think we need to do, and what I'm going to Parliament to do, is start figuring out how are we going to get a lot more people involved and accepting that politics is a comprehensive process. The question you just asked, not all of us can get into office. Not all of us can run for political office. What do the rest of us who are not in political office do? You see, because, like, for example, I am running.
And there's nothing wrong with blogging.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with blogging. But then I don't want you to tell me that what you do is blogging and that's how you're changing your country. Because then you tell me that what I am doing is not enough.
But Njeri, though, at the beginning of this conversation, you said we have to wake up to the political realities, which is that our politics is ethnic-based.
And so you get into that process.
But you seem to be accepting the situation as it is.
Let me tell you what disturbs me about young people and politics. So we have this vision of how utopia needs to look like. And we are seated here and saying that's the kind of world we need. And then blaming the old people and saying it is their fault. And then when the young guys like us try to get into that thing, even before we get in, you're telling us we look like those old people. And then, so I'm sitting here and I'm asking myself, so what am I supposed to do?
So what difference
Sit
are you
here
going
with you
to,
and start blogging.
What difference are you going to make in terms of changing what you said at the beginning of this discussion?
First and foremost,
is the political reality that our electoral process is based in ethnicity.
Yes.
You said it yourself.
And for me, that's actually not a bad thing. Why? Because I am going to go and visit Sifuna in Bungoma. I'm going to take some people from Nyeri and we're going to go and visit them, and we're going to start getting people to understand that this country we live in, the problems we have, the problems guys have in Nyeri are the same guys people have in.
Okay, all right, gentlemen, I'd like the prof to weigh in. Is it as simple as saying the people from Nyeri will go to the people in Kandui? Many people say that
that's
the problem,
how we form a nation.
Well, many people say that the problem with ethnicity in the country is inequitable, division of resources and opportunity and advantage across the board, that it goes beyond. I mean, because for sure, every day, Luyas, Kikuyus, Luos, Taitas, and whatnot speak and meet everywhere.
This guy is a Luya, I'm a Kikuyu. I'm nearly sure our economic backgrounds are not very different.
Please speak for yourself.
No, come on. I've seen the car you've packed on.
Yvonne, the problem of ethnicity in this country is politics is about narratives, and I would want us to have that as a separate discussion because it is a long discussion. The one I would like to respond to is the new punching box here, and that's why I didn't want to sit in the middle, because I'm the new punching bag from both sides.
You have appointed
and they're
yourself.
asking us,
No, you
and they're
appointed
asking us, and the question they're asking me is, what are you doing? Okay, number one, I'm blogging. That's number one. Number two, I have said that the only way we are going to move the discussion forward is to look for the next generation of actors and ideas in politics, not come here and start representing ideas and ideals za kukumuze, which they are doing. What am I doing about looking for new ideas and actors in politics? Go to my blog. I have started what I call Political Next. It is a series of videos where we are featuring young people with new ideas in politics so that we can start to change the debate and we can start to change the discussion from ethnicity to what young people want.
Let me tell you.
If you go to profmichaelwainaina.com
How many people
or
watch that
my
video?
page, I need protection, or to my Facebook page, Professor Michael Wainaina, you will find Political Next. Call us, do us an email. If you are a new actor with new ideas that you would like to bring into the political space, you are not an apologist for the kukumze.
Prof, do you believe that new ideas are out there from your experience?
100%. And let me tell you, the new ideas are also with these gentlemen. The reason why you can't hear new ideas from them, Yvonne, is not because they don't have new ideas. It is because they have a stake in the nominations that are coming in their political class.
I mean, you also need to defend
therefore, they will come here and tell you about ODM and about Jubilee.
What the professor doesn't know is that nomination process is a totally different thing from what is happening here. Half of the people who are going to vote in the ODM nominations in Kandui are not even watching this show. He doesn't even know where Kandui is on a map. I would guess that he couldn't even point it out. I want you to know something about me, Prof, that should tell you that I am different. I am a Luya man. I have never ever voted for a Luya presidential candidate. I have voted for Kikuyu once, I've voted for a Luo twice. What does that tell you about me?
Nothing.
You see, this is because you cannot see anything different from
It is not about individuals, Yvonne, and what individuals
you change
do.
minds one by one, one mind at a time.
Okay.
You have
Actually,
to win hearts
Yvonne,
one by one.
Gunjiri, would you like to?
Yes. You see, he's arguing that we have a responsibility, and then he's arguing it is not about individuals. And I get
It's ridiculous.
stuck because I am an individual. I am doing the best I can. Remember, Yvonne, I blog. I have written a column in a weekly newspaper for 6 years. So I do what he does. Then I have gone further. I have gone machinani. I've started talking
So
to people.
are you suggesting that Prof has not gone
You see, that's
machinani
why
and
I
doesn't
asked him how
understand
many
what's
people
going
have
on the
have
ground?
watched his video. Because he's trying, and this is my problem. He's pontificating, to maybe borrow this heavy word from my brother on the other side. He's pontificating at us. He's telling us, you guys are arguing
All right.
Pakamze.
Do you,
And my
do you,
question
do you not
is,
think that that is probably the same narrative that exists amongst the people who are watching us today?
Yes.
Amongst the electorate, they're looking to you that have put yourself up for
absolutely.
leadership
My problem is-
and
Absolutely.
saying,
he hasn't
"Pakamze,"
known.
What's
or,
new?
or
Let me tell you,
whatever
let me tell
other
you,
analogy they would like
Yvonne,
to use.
this guy doesn't have a clue what I stand for. Absolutely, he has
What do
no
you
idea.
stand for,
Tell us.
But
Bunjiri?
you see, he's telling me to tell him.
All right, what do you
You see,
stand for?
what I'm saying is, in fact, it's not even. I don't want to do. I'm not looking for a gap to start selling myself. What I'm saying is, he's judged us. He's judged me because I am in Jubilee.
Okay.
Remember, he's assumed because I'm in Jubilee, I represent old thinking. Because he's in ODM.
Yes,
he
you do.
represent- That's exactly. And
All
my
right,
problem is,
so-
parties. Republican Party in the States is what? 200 years old. I mean, how are we going to form a party structure in a country?
There are no
if you tell
political
me
parties
that
in Kenya.
But then how are we going to form them?
All right,
There are
We
no
have to get
political
in
parties
there
in Kenya.
and form
Gentlemen,
them.
I would like us to wind up our conversation
Yes.
on this issue. I'll start with you, Ngunjiri.
Yep.
Prof doesn't know what you're about. People are having understanding about new and youthful leadership. And, there's that, like I said in the beginning, saying we want to get out all of these old people and let's try fresh people. For all intents and purposes, you are not the only ones, and you are not the poster child of that per se,
Yep.
but you are fairly new to the political arena,
Yep.
so to speak. So tell us, what are these new ideas that's going to change the way politics is done in this country, that's going to change Jubilee's thinking or perception in terms of ethnicity, in terms of where we go in, development. So make that case if you can in about a minute and a half.
My
Why
elevator
you were
speech.
different.
My elevator speech.
Yeah.
Okay, first and foremost, I believe, and my experience has been that it is actually possible to knit communities together. And you knit communities together by first and foremost accepting that the differences, that the diversities exist, and then starting to get them to start seeing each other across the diversities. So for me, nationally, because when you're running for office, you have a national agenda and you have a local agenda. For me, my national agenda is very simple. I want to be able to reach out to Edwin across the divide. He's still going to be in opposition, and bring him and get him to understand that it's actually possible.
My question, how? I mean,
Very simple.
Beyond,
I gave a very simple
this is
example
what we're gonna do.
of just getting intercommunity engagements between people from my constituency, people from other constituencies.
Does that not happen?
But then it doesn't happen.
Bunjiri?
It stopped.
It doesn't happen?
It stopped. It had started immediately after post-election violence. There were people who are actually taking people around the country. And you know what happens? You get 10 people from Nyeri to travel to Kandui, and they engage
And
and
it's
they
that
spend.
simple.
And
So
it's-
once they
when you
spend
come
time,
back,
well-
you come back, and the next time you're having a conversation about how Edwin is a bad person, somebody will be saying, I actually visited their place, and the people who are struggling with famine are like us. And you start a conversation that starts saying our problems are actually not Kikuyu problems, Luhya problems, they are national problems. That's my national agenda.
Okay.
My local agenda is the boy child. Where I come from, the boy child.
First of all, I disagree strongly with my brother Ngunjiri. It's not as if there are no people from Nyeri in Kandui or people who have never visited. I've been to Nyeri, I've been to all the areas of Mount Kenya, I think. And it's not that we don't travel and see each other or we don't marry and we do all of those things. What you said at the beginning of this show is what is the actual problem? Is that the problem, for instance, of ethnicity, what is it that makes people feel bad about the Luhya? What is it that makes people feel bad about the Bukusu? Is that there is some level of exclusionism when it comes to allocation of resources in this country, allocation of opportunities in this country. And we feel that people have realized that the only way to direct these resources and opportunities to them is through the political route. And this political route is closed out to the rest of us. That
How?
there is only...
That's a narrative
This is
that you
the
guys keep
thinking. That's
pushing.
what I'm
That
saying.
is completely false.
Bunjiri, whether you
Bunjiri,
like
let's
to
allow
acknowledge it or not, this is a narrative that is out there. And for me, I would like for us to get to a country where we can actually have an issue-based approach. So, for instance, we go into a place like this and we don't say our second names. And we ask ourselves, what is your position, for instance, on corruption on X? What is your position on a free media? How would you like civil society to relate or the government to relate with the civil society? I mean, if we can find middle ground on these things and say, if we have 10 positions to hire, what would be the best ratio to distribute so that everybody feels like they are part of this particular civil service? If we can take that approach, I am telling you, the resentment that people feel is not because people have not come from Nyeri to Kandui. It's not because people have not visited Nyeri from elsewhere. I mean, it's about the opportunity and the inequality and iniquity that we see in this government and the previous governments that has brought all this resentment.
Prof, from whence comes our savior?
Two things. Number one, they make it look as if the ethnic problem is a problem of Kenyans. The ethnic problem is not a problem of Kenyans. The ethnic problem is a narrative by the political class that they represent. And for so long as the political class survives on an ethnic narrative, Kenyans are at their mercy. And there is nothing we can do about the ethnic narrative until we have an alternative, non-ethnic narrative. And that is what they are supposed to be looking for. What is the alternative to the ethnic narrative of the current political class? NASA and Jubilee hope to ride the ethnic narrative to power. That is the problem. The problem is not the people of Kandui. The problem is not the people of Nyeri. That is number one. Number two, we are looking for new ideas and new actors. And they have asked me what I'm doing. I have said, go to profmichaelwainaina.com. And if you have new ideas and you are a new actor, let us know about them. We will package them. We will put them out there so that we can start affecting this narrative in a different way.
And you believe that's possible?
So how many Kandui people can reach your website? We don't even have electricity, my brother.
He has just said that he's one person
here
who has changed, and change starts one person at a time.
Which you refuse.
He has said that he has started. He has started, you have started, I have started. I suspect, Yvonne, this is a change-making forum. That is my way of making change. He has his way of making change. Let us look for the next generation of actors and ideas.
You are sending us to a website, surely.
No, but he accepts. What I like about it is that he actually accepts.
Gentlemen.
And like where he was before, he now finally accepts that we're actually doing something to change. Despite the fact that we are in parties.
I wish my
he doesn't
people had
agree.
access to the internet the way you're talking like this so that they can see these miracles that you're working on your
Okay,
side.
so you're on the ground, you're
He needs to
blogging,
come. He
you're
needs
on
to
the
come
ground
down
in a
there and
national
see
level,
what the
and
issues
we're
are.
here on Checkpoint. Please use the hashtag Checkpoint on social media. Do you believe that these two gentlemen, or that in fact there is that new narrative of new, young, and perhaps not young just in terms of age, but young in terms of new ideas? Are they available? Prof says they are. Edwin and Gunjiri say they are that change.
Yes.
What do you think? Please keep your thoughts coming into this conversation. An interesting one. I can see quite a bit of your feedback as well. So keep that coming and we'll continue to have this discussion. Remember, it doesn't end here. This is Checkpoint. Thanks for staying with us. We'll be